Long ago, in the heart of the vibrant village of Tegora, a place where the air was always thick with stories, song, and spice, there lived a woman known to all as Mama Obio. Her stall stood right at the edge of the market square, small, crooked, and built from uneven planks of old wood and corrugated metal sheets that creaked when the wind blew. If you saw it from afar, you might think it was a forgotten shed. But when you got closer, that was when the magic would hit you. The scent alone could make your knees weak. A symphony of pepper, smoke, herbs, and palm oil would dance through. The air like a spirit, calling your stomach to attention. From the rising of the sun to its fall behind the hilltops, people came. They came barefoot, in slippers, in church clothes, in uniforms, in agbadas. They came with empty bowls, shiny plates, and rumbling bellies. Even the richest men in Tegora, men who drove air-conditioned jeeps and wore gold-rimmed glasses, would park by the dusty roadside, roll up their sleeves and humbly join the queue. Nobody cared about status here. When it came to Mama Obio's food, everyone was equal, and every plate was a blessing. Some said her egusi soup could make a sad man dance. Others swore her jollof rice cured heartbreak. A single spoonful, they said, could calm a screaming baby or make a grieving widow smile again. It wasn't just food. It was something deeper, something sacred. People called it magic. Women from nearby towns sent their daughters to learn under her. They stood beside her, watched every move, copied every recipe. But when they went home, to open their own stalls, none of them succeeded. Their pots burned, their flavors fell flat. One by one, their dreams collapsed. No one could recreate what Mama Obio did, and so, as always, the whispers followed. Juju, some muttered. It has to be jazz. There's no other way. Jealous vendors whose stalls stayed quiet spat tales into the wind, stories of dark, spirits, and nighttime sacrifices. But Mama Obio? She never said a word. She simply stirred her pot, wiped her brow, and smiled with that quiet, knowing smile that only those with secrets can wear. What the villagers didn't know was that Mama Obio was not just feeding them, she was feeding her own empire. Far from the noisy market, up on Loma Hill, stood her real home. It was a mansion, grand and glowing, painted in deep coral and wrapped in flowering vines. It had high walls, silver gates, and floors so polished they reflected your face like a mirror. Two maids moved silently across its tiled halls. A driver stood by the car every morning, waiting, and a stern security man patrolled the compound with a baton at his hip. Her closets overflowed with rich lace, fine silks, and gowns from foreign lands. Her arms jingled with bangles, her ears sparkled with heavy gold. And yet, every single morning, before the cocks even stirred, Mama Obio would tie her old wrapper, slip into her dusty slippers, and walk down to her rickety market stall. She would carry her basket on her head like any ordinary woman, even though her house had a cook. Only one person was allowed to cook beside her, her trusted helper, Papa Senchi, a silent old man with strong arms and sun-darkened skin. He had been with her for decades, and though she had a young girl named Binta to help around, Binta was never, not once, allowed to go near the main pot. There was one more strange thing. On the 21st day of every single month, without fail, Mama Obio would shut her stall completely. The market could be full to the brim, drums beating, weddings happening. It didn't matter. She would lock her doors, tie up her pots, and disappear. And she never returned until the 26th. No one knew where she went, not her customers, not even Papa Senchi. When asked, she would only say, "Some journeys are for the soul alone." Years passed like this, and now her daughter, Salewa, had returned home. Salewa, the pride of the family. The girl with fire in her eyes and confidence in her voice. She had studied law in South Africa, climbed the mountains of success, and graduated with top honors. Her future was shining brighter than the village moon. She was ready to take on the world. She had offers waiting for her in Abuja, even one from a firm in Nairobi. She was respected, brilliant, and determined never to return to a life of village dust and cooking oil. But one quiet morning, before the birds even found their songs, Mama Obio tapped gently on her daughter's door. Her voice, as soft as the wind through cassava leaves, said, "Wake up, my daughter. Today is your day." Salewa stirred, frowning. "Mama, what is it? Why so early?" Mama Obio stood tall in the doorway, her eyes deep and strange. "You will not be traveling to the city. You will follow me to the market today." The market? Salewa sat up, confused. "Why? To do what?" "You have turned 26, her mother said slowly, "and now it is your turn to carry the fire." Salewa stared, stunned. "Carry what fire? Mama, are you serious? After everything, all the years I spent in school, all your sacrifices, all the money, now you want me to sell stew in a shack?" "It is not just stew," Mama Obio said, her voice now shaking. "This business is more than pots and pepper. It is our legacy. It is what keeps us alive." Salewa's laughter was loud and bitter. "Alive? Mama, do you know how ridiculous you sound? This is the 21st century. I'm a lawyer. I'm not staying." But Mama Obio's face darkened, her eyes welled. "If you walk away, Salewa, there will be a price, a terrible one." Salewa shook her head, furious. "Then I will pay it." That night, as her mother slept, Salewa zipped her suitcase and vanished into the night, and in the morning, when Mama Obio found her daughter gone, she fell to the floor, wailing in a voice so raw it made the neighbors gather. She clutched the doorframe, shaking, whispering, "She has no idea what she's done. May the gods have mercy on us." Salewa had been gone for 3 months, not a call, not a letter, not even a message carried by the wind. Mama Obio tried again and again to reach her daughter, her hands shaking each time she dialed, her heart pounding harder with every ring that went unanswered. But Salewa never picked up. Her silence screamed louder than any insult. And back in the village of Tegora, Mama Obio sat each night under the mango tree in her compound, staring at the sky, praying to spirits she hadn't spoken to in years. "Please," she would whisper, "don't take my child." But Salewa was far away, tucked into a shiny law firm in London. Her life looked perfect from the outside. Clean desks, bright offices, suits that fit like they were stitched by the gods. She had made friends, climbed ladders, and was already being noticed by the big names in corporate law. The firm praised her sharp mind and called her the Benin Wonder. Her laughter echoed down marble hallways, and her colleagues raised glasses to her future. But all that changed in one blink. That day, Salewa had barely eaten. She sat at her desk, reviewing a contract, when her fingers froze mid-sentence. Her breath caught, her head spun. The letters on the screen began to melt and blur. And before anyone could shout her name, she dropped, slamming hard against the floor. Gasps, screams, panic. Her co-workers rushed her to the hospital. Fear stretched across their faces like masks. Doctors swarmed, ran tests, shook their heads. She regained consciousness that evening, but her body didn't feel like her own. Her tongue was heavy, her heartbeat raced like a goat chased through the forest. And from that day, the diagnoses poured in like rain from a broken sky. One doctor said cancer. Another said diabetes. A third said her blood pressure was so high it might shatter her veins. The word stroke danced on their lips as if waiting to strike. Salewa lay in that white hospital bed, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Her friends visited with flowers and forced smiles, but at night, when the hallway lights dimmed and only the machines hummed, Salewa cried silently, afraid to close her eyes. And in her weakest hour, her fingers finally found her phone. It rang once, twice. Then Mama Obio picked up. "Mama, Salewa's voice was barely a whisper. "My child!" Mama Obio cried out, jumping to her feet. "Salewa, where have you been? Are you safe? What's happening?" "Mama," Salewa's voice cracked. "I'm sick. The doctor says I have cancer and diabetes and hypertension. They say I might have a stroke, Mama. I don't want to die." There was a heavy silence. Then Mama Obio's voice dropped low. "Ah, you see now, Mama? This is what I tried to warn you about, my child," Mama Obio said, her voice both anxious and firm. "You cannot just walk away from our bloodline and expect peace to follow you. You turned your back on something deeper than you understand." Salewa wept. "Please, what do I do?" "Come back home," her mother said softly, shakily. "Come home, Salewa. Everything will be fine once you return. You know what you must do." And against every doctor's advice, against the nurses, who begged her to stay for more tests, Salewa booked a flight and boarded the next plane to Benin. She was pale, weak, and hunched like an old woman. Her hands trembled. Her legs gave out every few steps. The moment she landed at the airport in Abuja, Mama Obio was waiting with Papa Senchi by her side. They didn't speak much during the drive back to Tegora, but the next morning, while the stars were still fading, Mama Obio stood by Salewa's bed and tapped her gently. "Get up," she said. "It is time." Salewa groaned. "Mama, please." "No," her mother said. "You must come with me to the shop." Too tired to argue, Salewa followed her, and slowly, to the old dusty stall in the marketplace. The smoke of firewood filled the morning air. The same long lines of hungry mouths had already begun to form. Children ran past with plastic bowls. Old men cleared their throats. And the smell of that food made even Salewa's sick body hunger. She didn't cook. She couldn't. Her arms felt like feathers. But she sat on a stool in the corner, eyes half closed, watching her mother and Papa Senchi move in rhythm. The clanging of pots, the rush of boiling water, the careful taste tests. It was like a dance, one she'd never cared to learn before. And something strange happened. With every minute that passed inside that smoky stall, Salewa's body began to settle. Her head no longer pounded. Her limbs stopped shaking. Her heart slowed. The fever that had been gripping her chest like a hand, it loosened. By sunset, she stood up without help. By the next morning, she walked on her own. By the 5th day, she laughed again. On the 7th day, she went to the biggest hospital in Lagos for a full checkup. The doctors poked and scanned, took her blood, ran tests over and over, and then they returned with wide eyes. "We don't understand," the doctor said, staring at the reports. "There's nothing here, no trace of cancer, no signs of hypertension, not even diabetes. You're completely healthy." Salewa stared at him, her heart thundering. That night, back at home, she sat with Mama Obio under the mango tree. She was quiet for a long time. Then finally, she asked, "Mama, what is going on?" The air still and heavy. A cricket chirped somewhere in the bush, and a soft breeze stirred the leaves overhead. But inside her chest, it felt like a storm was gathering. "Mama," she asked again, her voice barely more than a breath. "Please, what are you not telling me?" Mama Obio looked away, her eyes locked on the darkness beyond the compound wall. Her gold bangles clinked faintly as she clasped her hands, and for a long time she said nothing. Then at last, in a voice soaked in sorrow, she spoke. "You remember when your father died, don't you?" she said. "We had nothing. I was young, lost. I had 2 mouths to feed and not a single coin to my name. People mocked me. Friends disappeared. Hunger became my closest companion." Salewa nodded slowly. Her childhood had been lined with struggle. Nights without food, mornings with soaked gari, days when she wore the same slippers until the soles peeled. Mama Obio continued. "One day, an old friend, a woman I hadn't seen in years, came to me. She had become rich overnight. Beautiful clothes, a new house, money in her purse like water from a spring. I begged her how, and she told me about a place, a woman, a prophetess in the forest beyond Oju Ridge. She paused, her face twisted in memory. I followed her. That journey, it was the longest I'd ever walked. We entered the woods just before midnight. The air was cold, the trees whispered, and then there she was, the prophetess of Obirin Grove, old, bent and blind, yet her voice rang like thunder. What did she say? Salewa whispered, her heart pounding. She said she could make me rich beyond measure, Mama Obio replied, but only if I accepted the terms. What terms? That the business I would build would never be mine alone. That it must be passed from mother to daughter as soon as the girl turned 26. If she refused, she would die, and the rest of the family would follow. Salewa gasped, her hand flying to her chest. You're saying my sickness was the curse, Mama Obio said softly, the punishment for breaking the cycle. There was a long silence between them, broken only by the rustling of the wind. I did not know everything, Mama Obio added, her voice trembling. Salewa's face twisted in horror. Mama, you made a blood covenant for wealth with a woman who hides in skulls and smoke? What kind of legacy is this? You sent me to England, to law school. Why build my future if you knew you were going to chain me to this thing? Mama Obio's voice cracked. I prayed that maybe the covenant would break, that maybe your success would be enough. But it is not. This wealth has roots, and they go deep. The night was long. Salewa lay in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling of her childhood room, unable to sleep. The same ceiling she had once drawn dreams upon, imagining herself in courts and conference rooms, making powerful speeches in cities she had only seen in magazines. Now those dreams lay in a pile beside her bed, torn to shreds by the truth she had uncovered. What would her friends say if they saw her now? The brilliant girl from Tegora, who studied abroad, now returning to cook cursed stew in a wooden stall. Built with sorrow, she clutched her pillow and wept. What will happen to my legal career, she whispered. What will happen to everything I've worked for? She didn't want to return to the stall, but each time she stayed home, her body betrayed her again. She would grow dizzy, her bones would ache, and a fever would rise like a fire in her chest. But when she followed Mama Obio to the market, it all vanished. It was as if her body had been bound to the covenant her mother made, and now there was no way to pretend anymore. Every morning brought fresh dread. Every pot stirred reminded her that she was standing in the shadows of the dead. She started to notice the rituals more. How only Mama Obio and Papa Senchi ever touched the food. How Binta was never allowed near the pot. How Papa Senchi came to work with that same black tin, wrapped in cloth and always held close. One morning, Salewa couldn't take it. She stepped closer and watched as he opened it. He poured the contents, something wrapped in banana leaves, into a large basin. He washed the bundle thoroughly, then handed the water to Mama Obio. Her mother took it without flinching. She poured it straight into the pot of stew. Salewa turned away, her mouth dry, her heart thudding like a drum in a storm. That night, she asked her mother again, Mama, what is in that tin? Mama Obio looked at her for a long time, as if deciding whether to speak. You will soon take over this work, she said, so you must know the truth. She sat down slowly, resting her tired legs. What Papa Senchi brings every morning is flesh from the dead, human parts from the mortuary, she said, voice flat like a knife. We do not cook it, we do not eat it, but we wash it, and the water is what we use to cook. Salewa fell back in her seat, trembling. Dead bodies, she whispered. Yes, that is the way it must be done. That is what binds the covenant. Salewa's face twisted in pain. This is evil, she said, tears flooding her eyes. It's wickedness. I know, Mama Obio replied softly. And still, I have no choice. I tried to stop years ago. I almost died. The spirits came for me in my sleep, tried to drag me away. I barely survived. Salewa looked at her. Mother, once a figure of strength and grace, now a broken woman bound to shadows. And that's not all, Mama Obio continued. Every month, from the 21st to the 25th, I must travel to Togo. I wear rags, roam the streets, pretend to be mad. That is what the spirits demand, that their servant must taste madness if she wishes to remain among the sane. Salewa covered her face and sobbed. So this is the legacy you want me to inherit, she cried. This is what I'm to pass down to my children one day. I don't want this for you, Mama Obio said, voice cracking. But if you don't continue, the curse will eat us all. You saw what happened when you ran away. Salewa did not respond. She got up and walked out. For many days she said nothing. She carried the burden silently. But inside, her mind was at war. One morning she woke before dawn and went to a prayer house at the edge of the village. The prophet there said the same thing as all the others had. If you want to be free, truly free, you must reveal the truth. You must expose the curse and burn the roots that feed it. But it will kill my mother, she said. Yes, the prophet replied, but it will save generations yet unborn. She left the prayer house trembling. Later, she went to the river priestess. The woman, old and blind, dipped her hands into the water and said, Your bloodline was tied with death. To break it, death must answer. You must choose your mother's life or your future. Salewa fell to her knees. How can I choose? She cried. How can I live with either path? But no answer came, only the sound of the river swallowing stones. Weeks passed. Then one morning, Salewa woke with tears already in her eyes. She dressed slowly, tied her wrapper like Mama Obio always had, and followed her mother to the market. She smiled. She greeted customers. She even stirred a pot. But hidden deep inside her sat a phone, its camera quietly rolling. That day, she captured it all. The black tin, the washing, the use of the water, the whispered words between Mama Obio and Papa Senchi. She filmed it all. And when she got home, her hands shaking, she uploaded it to the internet. Then she sat by the window, watching the wind shake the leaves of the mango tree, waiting for the world to catch fire. It didn't take long. By noon, customers at the market stall were staring at their phones, murmuring, gasping, raising their voices. One woman shouted, Is this true? Dead body water? Another screamed, She's been feeding us the dead. Then the crowd surged. Plates were thrown. A bench overturned. Mama Obio tried to speak, but no one heard her. A stone hit the pot. Then another. Papa Senchi tried to flee, but the crowd caught him. Within minutes, the stall was ablaze, and in the flames, Mama Obio and Papa Senchi burned. Salewa watched the smoke rise from Loma Hill. She didn't move. Not when the news arrived. Not when the police came. Not even when her brother called from abroad, sobbing. She only cried that night, curled into her blanket like a child, whispering, I'm sorry, over and over. The next week, everything Mama Obio owned was either confiscated by the government or mysteriously burned. The house on Loma Hill collapsed in a fire. The cars vanished. Even the trees around the compound wilted and died. It was as if the curse, once exposed, decided to consume everything it had ever touched. Salewa was left with nothing, no money, no name, only freedom. She found a small apartment in a distant town and began again. She got a job, not at a big law firm, but at a local legal aid center. She helped widows reclaim land. She wrote wills for the sick. She taught young girls their rights. Each day she walked to work in the sun, head high. At night sometimes she still dreamed of Mama Obio, standing by the pot, smiling sadly. I did it for you, her mother would say, and Salewa would whisper back, I know. But still she wept, Because freedom always comes at a cost. Greed may build a palace, but it cannot protect the soul within it. When we make deals with darkness for quick riches, we risk passing down chains instead of blessings. Legacy is not in wealth. It is in truth, in freedom, and in what we leave behind for those who come after us. Sometimes, breaking a curse means becoming the villain in someone else's story, but the hero in your own. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to hear more powerful African tales every week. And tell me, if you were Salewa, what would you have done?